this is Rydo, and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. Today is Friday, November 19th. So, at this point, it is hit a level where we may have a problem here, specifically with Shadowverse. Nowadays, it's pretty much the case that the that Black Friday starts a week before, basically, for a lot of places, and they're just trying to move it further and further. Although, in all fairness, Amazon Prime Day moved it several months earlier, as far as the one big time of the year in which sales are going on. So I imagine for the next week, I might be slightly busy, but hopefully not too busy, because frankly I'm not planning on buying too much for Black Friday this year, since I bought a ton during Amazon Prime Day. Plus I doubt there will be even really that many sales. But that, on top of the fact that my back is still super messed up, is going to potentially give us more reason to try and get through today fairly early. I say this almost every stream, is I want to get through things faster. But we've also had a problem, certainly, with me getting sleepy, so that still can happen. I'm fairly laid back. Unfortunately, my recliner, which had been sitting around for several years without anybody actually sitting in it, the second I started sitting in it, the fake leather on it immediately started cracking. Which, yeah, that's some great ABS. Pleather, I think, pretty much cracks after a couple of months of usage anyways. This is different, certainly. We've got an expansion for Dawn of Calamity, and we've got a free pack, which you just buy, I guess. Now would be certainly the time to open up cards and see if we can get a bit of an expansion or jump forward on the new cards. So I guess every day you're supposed to log into Shadowverse and get 2 free packs. But yeah. So, like, my legs are up right now in this recliner. Let's just open all 10 of them right now. I'm leaned back a little bit, and frankly, because of my back, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a specific point where I just turn on the actual vibration or even the heater in it, which I am not sure if the vibrations, even at the highest setting, could be picked up by my microphone. I have noticed that bumping this and making that sound, that bumping my microphone, seems to happen a little less often in the past couple of days since I've moved things around. That's probably more to do with just the way I adjusted the mic stand. Seems like you can still very easily bump it. I don't think the vibration in the chair, though, would vibrate the microphone. For a quick accountability section, I played a game called TikTok Isle, which was like a 99-cent game and barely 2 hours long. I can't really recommend it. And then I played the game Merrily Perily from the same creator several years later, and it was much more of a game, but it was still barely 2.5 hours long for $4 at that point. Merrily Perily, well, TikTok Isle is basically a point-and-click adventure without any mouse support, so keyboard only, and not really much of an adventure because all you're doing is wandering around between two different time periods to find a very minimal number of items that you have to get from point A to point B. Merrily Perily, on the other hand, feels at least like a slightly more open world area where you start the game in Merrily Perily where you're dying of dehydration, and then in the effort to solve that crisis you inevitably cause several other crises. The easiest one to spoil is you run up to a fountain, you drink water from the fountain, a snake jumps out of the fountain, and then you're poisoned. And then you have a timer. There's about 5 endings to Merrily Perily, and you would probably get maybe 1.5 of them on your own effort before you just gave up in frustration, because even though it's a fairly small map, it's also fairly easy to just not see any breadcrumbs, because there really aren't any breadcrumbs. Let's go ahead and just see where we are specifically with the new expansion, because if we have a whole bunch that we could still get, there's reasons to maybe open some more packs. But if we really don't have a lot to get, there's a bit less of a reason. Yeah, and by the end of like 2 hours just doing a spotlight, it turned into a spotlight for Merrily Perily. I was just straight up following a walkthrough, because there's just not enough game there to justify to justify wandering around and struggling and trying to find things if you're just not able to figure out things. Like one example of that certainly is there's a Medusa that gets startled and turns you to stone every time you enter her lair, and there's another point where you can blind yourself, but it just didn't occur to me in my mind that, oh, I have to be blind so that stops me from turning into stone. And then there's like one ending that literally is just achieved by standing around for a few minutes and not going anywhere. Little Misfortune tells a much better story in comparison. Let's see, can we buy a pre-built deck? Not for, I don't think with any gold. I think it's all just from the gems. Let's go ahead and re-roll this, even though that's probably a mistake. Bloodcraft or Portalcraft, I guess is what we're playing today. And then I guess we have a new story here. So, more story here. I guess it just stopped. Up until this point, or maybe not. I can't help but feel like this game is kind of on a second iteration, or possibly past its prime. My interaction with this game is certainly at that point, if nothing else. I've definitely had a hard time getting on board with liking Shadowverse, even though I kind of tried for the first few months. At a certain level, it's just not a generous enough game. In contrast, Destiny Child, the lewd gacha game I play on my phone, I've loved, but I am seeing some reporting that as Shift Up is probably going to start to not focus so much on adding more content to Destiny Child, people are getting upset. Now, in all fairness, it's like Japanese and Korean players are getting upset, it seems like, which at a certain point they almost have a right to be upset, because the Korean version of Destiny Child and the Japanese version of Destiny Child were way less generous than the global version, the Westerners version of it. But yeah, Shift Up, the creators of Destiny Child, is just put out a new trailer for a new cell phone game that they're working on called Project Nikkei, or Nikki. I think it's Nikki. Which looks very much like Destiny Child if you made it slightly less lewd and had more guns and military theming to it. So, on top of that, Shift Up is also working on Project Eve, which is the AA/AAA game. And at a certain level, I kind of would like to see Project Eve come out and succeed and be the next Bayonetta, even at the cost of Destiny Child kind of going into maintenance mode and not having any more content added to it. I would like the story to wrap up, certainly, but if you told me that for Shift Up as a company to succeed, Destiny Child has to die, it would be sad, but it would be, I think, an acceptable trade-off, because if Shift Up as a company, in my opinion, and I really am mostly just giving an opinion here, if Shift Up as a company succeeds and doesn't just get acquired, or some new CEO comes in and changes everything, it'll be one of the few game companies out there willing to go as far as lewd and adult content in an era where a lot of the mostly Japanese companies that were willing to go far in lewd and adult content have gotten this constant push of censorship, mostly from Sony PlayStation, to the point where they can't even make those games, enough so much that the Japanese, in particular, the Japanese being very willing to give up easily, seem like they are very much on the verge of giving up and just saying, well, it's impossible, we can't make those kinds of games anymore, so we're just gonna either change everything, or we're going to they're either going to give up, or they're going to change how they make games.
Let me show you how it's done. Let's play. Don't be shy.
I mean, I don't think there really is too much you could do for Destiny Child. If you were going to try and bring it away from being a gacha game, it would be very weird. If you're going to try and bring it away from being lewd, it would be very weird. If you're going to try and reboot it and make it a console game, that would be very weird. the characters could show up in some other style game, but it would almost have to be like a Smash Brothers type game where it's just characters fighting each other. They did make a couple of animated OVAs around Destiny Child, but that's it. And I guess that is going to be my weekly allotment of talking about Destiny Child. Frankly, I talk about it too much and am unintentionally turning myself into a shill. But I mean, I am also being extremely honest with my like for the game that plays itself. After playing Merrily Perily, I got one episode of Cat's Quest played through.
Running is always an option.
Which, yeah. Cat's Quest feels like a very quick experience, or feels like it's going to be a fairly quick experience for a RPG game. Kind of an experiment. I'm doing an experiment by playing Cat's Quest to see if either I'm going to have my fill on a short RPG game, or if I can play this short RPG and work myself up to playing Ni no Kuni, since Cat's Quest also probably is kid friendly. It seems like it is up until this point. So if I can get through Cat's Quest in the course of the next week and a half, I think I will then just play Ni no Kuni, the remastered version of Ni no Kuni 1. And then playing Ni no Kuni 1, I'll try and have as accelerated of an experience as possible through that, and not spend a lot of time grinding. But if I, but even trying to have as abridged as possible of an experience on Ni no Kuni 1, that probably will make a fairly large amount of content. I say it almost every weekend I need to schedule, but I probably really need to schedule. Like, November has really disappeared in a blink of an eye.
A nice breeze today.
I think today we will also just maintain a semi yes/no stance. In fact, we might just make that the new standard going forward. We'll just have to see how next week goes. So, like, I look at a game like Snake Force here, and this really doesn't look like anything that would really stop me from just saying no immediately. Normally, yeah, this is one of those games where you pick up people and you make a longer chain, and then they shoot, taking the idea of Snake and adding a shooting element to it. This isn't even particularly a great element from it. I don't know why there's a first-person perspective and why there would be jumping or anything like that. It seems like the game is presenting itself as two very different types of games. It's free to play, English and Chinese. Weird. That's funny to have that character from that movie as in that form, but it's also probably not a licensed likeness, which maybe you can get away with that in parody law, maybe you can't. But yeah, this is kind of a maybe slightly on the line, but not on the line enough of a game to where I couldn't have just said no immediately. Next we have Redestiny, which is tagged as having sexual content in a match 3 game. Seems to have some levels of more challenge to it, or some levels of unlocking skills, and then some loot images and some visual novel stuff. $37, English, Japanese, Chinese, full Japanese. Like, we can put that on the fall list, I suppose, and just see if it gets really well reviewed. Although adult games being reviewed are kind of rare. And I guess we probably are back to the same old where the adult games, particularly the Asian adult games, are all getting held to be released on a Friday, particularly this Friday being a terrible time for a game to be released on Steam, where very few people will see it. Like, it is, every time I see it, it definitely feels like somebody inside of Valve is intentionally putting their thumbs on the scales of This does nothing. So let's just do this. Like that. And then play this. Let's see. Desert Bus for Hope wrapped up, and they got $950,000 for the charity they were collecting things for, which I'm not sure which one it was. It's Child's Play charity is what they seemingly consistently raise money for each year. I think that's true.
Do not seek what is not there.
Okay, so you hit this. Okay, so you hit this. I guess you hit this one.
Awaken, for the end is near. You've been chosen.
The winds are beyond my grasp.
Today is your lucky day, my friend.
Yeah. That's pretty bad. See, Gamatsu says Pac-Man Museum Plus has been announced for PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC, due out in early 2022. What you'll notice here is almost, I don't think there's ever been a case where Namco has either, Bandai Namco now, has had the rights to Miss Pac-Man or re-released Miss Pac-Man, even if they had the rights to it, because Miss Pac-Man was basically released in direct opposition to the wishes of Namco when it originally came out, which is a bit of a problem considering that the major fandom, if I was to guess, of Pac-Man games are going to be actually fans of Miss Pac-Man more than anything else.
Time to splash out.
And I guess I could do 3 damage and then do this. And that's the only thing that's gonna save you.
You got a problem? I know when I've lost.
So, yeah. Of the list here, Pac-Man, Super Pac-Man, definitely playable, but you've almost certainly bought several of these before. Pac-Man 256, this may be the first time you can get it. Or Pac-Man Battle Royale may be the first time you can get it on certain platforms.
How wretched.
They have Pac-Man Championship Edition, but not Championship Edition DX, nor do they have Championship Edition 2, which was kind of the bad one. So, seems very weird to bother to try and have some of the Pac-Man games and not all of them, particularly when some of these Pac-Man games are not really worth it. But also isn't really the first time we've seen a company like Bandai Namco do something like that, where they are just desperately trying to profit off of old content. I would make an argument that Bandai Namco might be just another great example of a company that hired somebody, probably as an independent contractor or even as a salaried employee, to make a game decades ago, like 30, 40 years ago, paid them relatively very little to make these games, and have since just sold them over and over again, and had a corporate entity profit off people that very possibly don't even work for Bandai Namco. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bandai Namco that even exists now and has the rights to Pac-Man is in no way the same company as the Bandai Namco, or the Namco at the time, that existed when those Pac-Man games originally came out. And even if none of that is true, and it literally is a case where the creators of these Pac-Man games are getting very decent royalties for each of these Pac-Man games, and every time a new copy sells, them and their family are being taken care of really well, you still have the other argument about the idea of copyright being a limited monopoly that to protect the creators, compared to it going public domain and then benefiting all of society. If it were a case that the original creators of Pac-Man had gotten royalties and were filthy rich millionaires, if not billionaires by now, I would kind of question if they would have been billionaires. But if that was the case, like, is it really benefiting society to give another few $1 million to the creators of Pac-Man? Or have they earned enough, and is it better for society for Pac-Man in particular to be public domain? Pac-Man is kind of a great example to at least consider the other option of it being in public domain if copyright for video games, for instance, were only, say, 5 years instead of probably closer to 70 years after the death of the author. Because 5 years after the original Pac-Man game came out in arcades would have been right during the time of Windows 95 and DOS era gaming, in which we saw a ton of Pac-Man clones that came out regardless of whether a copyright could actually defend the concept of a little half circle eating dots or not. So, had copyright been better enforced or more restrictive, as it is probably more today than it was in the early 90s, we probably would have never had as much success as far as PC gaming, and it still took decades after the 90s to really get PC gaming to work. But the success of PC gaming in the 90s definitely led to the success in part, and at least some small part, of consoles. Like, we wouldn't have had disk drives in consoles if it weren't for the fact that point and click adventures and PCs showed the benefit of having that extra space as a disk drive.
Terminating hostile life form.
Yeah,
We wouldn't have
stop.
anywhere as good of visuals in games if it weren't for PCs constantly improving the graphics and pushing the market forward. Nintendo in particular, had they just been solely in charge of deciding the level of graphics for games, then everything would probably look less quality than your average Switch game by this point. Like, Nintendo games only look as good as they do, which is not really that good because of competition in PC. Moving on, we have a game called Fire Puzzle House, which looks like it is a puzzle game of no real interest. 99 cents English only. Yeah, we have a game called Zombie Maze, which looks like garbage. 59 cents English only. Hideo Kojima, according to video games. No, Hideaki Kamiya, sorry, misread that completely, has apologized to Microsoft for Scalebound's cancellation, according to Video Games Chronicle. We weren't experienced enough, quote, confesses the Platinum Games director. I don't know if there really is much of a story here, other than to say somebody got an interview with a Japanese director. It's very Japanese to fall on your sword and take the blame, even if you particularly don't deserve it. So, I mean, I can't say one way or the other if he isn't actually just being completely honest, but I can say I wouldn't be surprised if the cancellation had very little to do with Platinum Games and actually was just a generic financing internal decision by Microsoft. But I could also, in reality, I would say I probably believe them. There is a misnegotiation that clearly happened from day one between Platinum Games and Microsoft as far as the idea of Scalebound. You only really have to look at what is being shown here. Do I think Platinum Games could have a good single fight sequence with a dragon? Yes, but a co-op game where the dragon's fighting with you, which I believe is the case here, and he's controlling it with magic, that's a tall order that we haven't really seen happen in any game. I'm sure somebody somewhere has done it, but I can't name a game where you control a dragon, particularly if it isn't going to just be a turn-based JRPG type experience where you're just giving text commands and Pokemon controlling the character. But you have this metal sword, you have magic, you have these headphones, you have this guy in modern clothing. You are just kind of all over the place, even in one screenshot where the idea really needed to have been boiled down more. And see, this is a trailer for their other game that they just delayed. At a certain level, I also wouldn't be surprised if Scalebound was on its way towards success, but they were just doing things like you would in a Japanese company, where it is very common to announce things very early and in Japanese companies and then delay them kind of ad nauseum. Guess we'll play this.
Knowledge fulfills my existence.
But yeah. I think people were overhyped as far as Scalebound anyways, because they actually showed very little gameplay or concepts at all. Yeah. It's a fairly generic idea. I wouldn't be surprised if Scalebound as a concept really was just trying to... We have some Gamatsu articles saying the same thing. Same article.
I'm leaving.
I wouldn't be surprised if this was really an effort to make something like Bayonetta, but a little bit slower, more on the ground, and with a male protagonist. But I suspect Platinum Games probably doesn't have enough staff to make a game like Bayonetta and continue to make Bayonetta. The subquote here from Gamatsu is, "We lack the know-how to build a game based on online features." So, yeah. At a certain level, I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft was really demanding a lot of online features that they figured they could either add very easily and then realize they couldn't, or that they hadn't originally planned on having in the game. It is not incredibly crazy to see somebody higher up demand major changes to a project of any sort, whether it's a movie or a video game or whatever. I'd also say Microsoft, outside of the Xbox division, has a pretty terrible habit of having one division just force another division's or another product into another product. I was listening to a podcast, a tech podcast talking about Windows 11, and like there's kind of a ridiculous amount of advertising and shopping and integration of other things being added to Edge in a very monopolistic way right on the eve. There are these extra functions being added to Edge right on the eve of Microsoft Internet Explorer being completely unusable in Windows 11. And Windows 11, in some aspects, if not all aspects, feels like it is not even going to make it nearly impossible for your average person to use a browser other than Edge, which again, didn't Microsoft already get in trouble for integrating a browser into its operating system? Yeah, in fact, I would say both iOS and Android are past due a point where they should also get in trouble for coming with their own browsers and not having at least the pop-up window selection screen that once was required by European law, where you had to pick between one web browser and another.
Break them. I can't move.
Moving on, as far as video game news, here we have a wonky wizard. We can say no to this immediately. This is low polygon garbage. Free to play English. Apparently BioWare has a Legacy of Sith story livestream recap. I guess if you're interested, this is talking about, I guess, the next Star Wars game from BioWare. Here we have Heroes of the Kingdom Lost Tales 2. Apparently they're having a Czech and Slavic Games week, which doesn't really feel like a sale so much. Yep. I think Heroes of the Kingdom Lost Tales 2 I could say no to also. $6.29, bunch of languages. Yeah, I'm not seeing enough polish here. This looks like an old game, but it is also a game that seems incredibly irrelevant since I don't recognize it.
Hostile life form detected.
Yeah. I kind of do feel like more today than a week ago that I am very possibly not going to get around to playing all the games I've already purchased. So it feels less urgent or less necessary to potentially dig it down to find
Sustained.
a hidden gem of a game, particularly in genres that I'm not super interested in. Like, I'll dig certainly a little bit deeper looking for a point-and-click adventure game that might be a hidden gem compared to a strategy, like real-time strategy game. Speaking of Microsoft, they've updated this week's deals with Golden Spotlight sale plus Black Friday sale. So 3 days, 16 hours. There's a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of games, and some hardware that's on sale. It's not really like the best interface ever that you just have to scroll forever to see everything and look at the names. Let's see if we can click this, maybe we can get more details specifically about the Black Friday sale. And I guess if you're buying hardware, you're probably buying it from the perspective of a of it being from the Microsoft Store specifically.
Begin. Emergency mode activated. Enemy identified.
I'll make your taste buds quiver.
Yeah, my chair is already feeling uncomfortable. Even though I added more cushions, I think I'll just have to add more cushions. And maybe back up to like 4 cushions. That's what was the max I have. So 67% off 700 digital games. 75% off select games from Xbox Game Studio. 75% on select PC digital games, again probably from the Windows Store and Xbox. 95% off Games Pass for PC, and get the first 3 months for $1. I guess that's how you get the 95% off. 40% off select gaming accessories, and save up to $500 on gaming PCs and laptops. Probably wouldn't be a terrible point if you were in the market for a PC. Probably wouldn't be a terrible point to just take up a deal from somebody like Microsoft right now, because like you know that the shortage is still going to happen, and just getting a gaming PC that's going to have even a decent video card may be a tall order.
Monolith terminal. Activate commencing transmission.
Sorry, I went quiet as I'm trying to adjust the chair. Yeah, it's a much slower movement, certainly, when you are leaning back and your feet are up.
What fine threads
That
you
is definitely a different experience
have. This'll be over quick.
to transition.
Truth and lies.
Okay.
Everything was a lie.
Hit that. So yeah, the Microsoft sales 40% on HyperX gaming accessories, $50 on Turtle Beach and Rocat gaming accessories, $30 on select Razer streaming gaming accessories, $50 on Logitech items, 50% on Power A Moga gaming clip. I don't even know what that is. And then they've partnered with MSI, Razer, and Asus for gaming PCs and gaming laptops. I don't ever recommend buying a gaming laptop. I just don't think such a thing actually exists at any level of quality. Let's see. Oh, I should have rushed this one and attacked. Then I could have attacked the face. But whatever. But yeah, you might consider taking people
Hostile unit confirmed.
up on the offer for a gaming PC.
Ready yourself.
This is not a
This
warning.
season
Termination
more than
protocol.
ever before. ScumVM hasn't put out anything new in a while, kind of a long while, 3 or 4 months feels like. But 3 hours ago they said that they're working on adding
Sequence.
additional list views, which does, I think, make a statement towards the number of games that are now potentially supported by ScumVM getting to an unmanageable state. Most people using ScumVM probably were starting to run into too many games just to have one long list of rows and columns, and getting collapsible sections where you can say, here's all the missed games. Particularly, it seems like they're showing different versions of the missed games that are supported, maybe different languages. Makes some sense. Like, particularly if you're going to have the humongous games like the Pajama Sams and Freddy Fish games, there was a lot of those.
Hostile life form detected. Terminating
Do that.
hostile life form. Damage heavy.
Do that.
The truth will cut you down. Oh, my beloved Nava.
Do that.
Useless puppets give me love.
Okay. The game Sanitarium also is in in a testing phase.
This game.
So the psychological horror game Sanitarium.
My toolbox, you meddlesome
Like,
No more fury.
here you can see ScumVM is also approaching a point where they need to remake their website. It's a pretty old website, and the games that are being highlighted here have kind of stopped being the focus. I don't even know what game this is supposed to be. This is from one of the Monkey Islands, and this is one of the Humongous games, and this is Day of the Tentacle. And these other characters I can't immediately recognize, but I think they probably are fairly older games that they've supported for a while.
And see that you carry out your mission.
Yeah, I've lost here.
Truth and lies.
Let's see.
Everything was a lie.
Sisters, I love
Truth and lies. Everything was a lie.
That doesn't kill that guy.
The truth will cut you down. The truth will cut you down.
Accept harmony.
The work is never over.
Let's see.
I am reactivated.
Trying to find the compatibility list, not the
Impossible.
games list that just takes you to the downloadable free games.
Malignance, dissonance. Know my fury.
Where's the compatibility list? Bug tracker. It's probably not it. Patch tracker. Here it is under documentation compatibility. That's where it is.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
I don't even know why I'm bothering to play. I've totally lost.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
Sisters, I love you.
Yep. And there's basically nothing you can do. Alright. So let's just come over here. So here's the compatibility list on ScumVM. Here they have a color-coded case here where it goes from untested to broken to bug to good to excellent to dated. And you can, if we just briefly scroll down here, you can see there's several softwares and companies that use slightly different engines that they're emulating now. Not really the Scum engine at all. The game short names here kind of don't matter for anything anymore. They aren't used anymore. You used to have to name a folder that, but that stopped being the case. And so if each of these different engines were a subcategory, that would work for most people, but it probably wouldn't be too bad if there were subcategories specifically for like Freddy Fish games compared to the Let's Explore games, compared to the Putt Putt games and the Pajama Sam games. A lot of these that are labeled excellent are some of the very first games or extremely popular games, so they've gotten a lot of work around them. They even have some fan games. Wouldn't mind playing that at some point. And then Sierra Games got added a couple years ago, and that added a significant number of games, although Hoyle Solitaire is really not even a point-and-click adventure. But once they started supporting the Sierra engines and that code, mostly ScumVM at this point is just a slightly more polished DOSBox emulator. more than anything else. And it really is only these LucasArts games that are actually Scum Engine games. Maybe there's a few other games that actually do use the Scum VM engine, but not so much. And Grim Fandango, for instance, actually uses the residual engine, so it's not even a Scum Engine game. Yeah. When did they add the Hugo games? That's something I actually want to keep in mind. I remember playing these when I was younger. Certainly. But like Myst, for instance, is definitely not a Scum game. I didn't even know Mystery Exile could be run on the Scum VM, or at least I don't remember if I did. And then they have just kind of a generic list here of games that aren't even really from a company that made a whole bunch of games that they're supporting. Like Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, for instance. And so here's Sanitarium. Specifically, the one they just announced. They are definitely getting further and further down the line as far as games that they are supporting. It is still fairly a curated experience compared to just trying to be a DOSBox emulator that could run any DOS software. See, all Sanitarium has, when you clicked on it, was game requires testing and may not be fully playable. Supported platforms are Windows, and then they have like a Wikipedia article, which I wish there was a quicker way to get to the Wikipedia article so we could actually see at least a picture of Sanitarium. Let's see. After a car accident knocks him unconscious, a man awakes from a coma, his face fully bandaged, to find that he's been admitted to a dilapidated sanitarium, and he cannot remember who he is, or where he came from, or how he came to be there. Though a fellow inmates simply know him as Max, he delves deeper into the asylum corridors in search of answers. I feel like I know a game similar to this, but not this game. Max finds himself transported to various obscure and otherworldly locations, a small town inhabited by malformed children, overseen by a malevolent alien known only as Mother, a demented circus surrounded by endless ocean, and terrorized by a squid-like individual and alien hive overrun by cyborg insects, and an Aztec village devastated by the return of the god Quetzalcoatl. Between each episode, Max returns to the Asylum Grounds, blending real and unreal, each time close to regaining his memory and unveiling the truth surrounding the mysterious Dr. Morgan, head of the asylum. He remembers the death of his younger sister Sarah years ago, and the real reason behind the institutionalization. Alright, well, that doesn't sound like a game that I remember. Which maybe that's a bit of a hidden gem. In 2015 it was ported to iOS and Android devices, which honestly point and click adventure games probably are in a good position to be ported to cell phone games. Libretro hasn't posted much in the past month or so either. The RetroArch Wii U will get full speed 32x emulation soon, courtesy of Pico Drive, which, okay, fairly questionable if you would actually bother to try and run emulation or RetroArch on the Wii U. I would see more of an argument to do it on a Wii compared to a Wii U. I guess Wii U's are backward compatible with Wii games, so maybe if you had upgraded from a Wii to a Wii U, then there might be an argument there, but I kind of feel like the whole idea of using a Wii or Wii U at this point is kind of ridiculous. Even the Switch is fairly old as hardware. But I guess, particularly right now with shortages, you might just have to use what you've got. It's not like there really is a case where you could go and get a new Raspberry Pi and set that up easily right now. That it would be expensive and difficult, more expensive and difficult than normal. And we are definitely going to have to give some thought to what the Raspberry Pi 5 will look like when it comes out in probably a year from now, because it's either going to have to step up its game and be something much closer to a PC and to really succeed as a replacement for a desktop PC, which it's up until this point not really been successful at actually accomplishing that goal. Or it's going to have to decide that it just wants to be this odd middle ground chip that's more powerful than something like an Arduino, but not really powerful enough to be something like a Chromebook. I think they probably know that secretly a significant number of people buying Raspberry Pis are buying them for emulating video games, and I think they secretly know that the next step forward would be to have a much better video card integrated into the Raspberry Pi 5 that can handle playing Nintendo 64 games at the very least. Like an incremental improvement I don't think is going to be good enough to make the Raspberry Pi 5 when it comes out stand out.
Only one stands to ascend to. The night begins.
I could have talked about this on Wednesday, but
So much for that axe.
basically got tired and didn't talk about it. G4 had its relaunch on the 16th. It was an extremely long stream on Twitch and YouTube. And I skipped around a lot of it and didn't watch it at all while it was live. I definitely didn't waste my time on it. They showed off a stage for X-Play, they showed off a stage for Attack of the Show, and they showed off a stage for Dungeons and Dragons. I can't help but feel like this is definitely just another attempt at making something like Geek and Sundry. Kevin Pereira of Attack of the Show on day one pretty much confirmed that his plans within a year is to have somebody else, some of the newer people, be the host of Attack of the Show, and that he would be out of there. So, I mean, that is a very weird statement to make on day one. I wonder if possibly contract negotiations went badly, or they signed a contract and then the reality of it went badly. I heavily suspect Adam Sessler is not too different from Kevin Pereira on that point, where he is just there to be the initial setup. Again, that feels a lot like Geek and Sundry, where you had two people pretending like they were the figureheads / owners of Geek and Sundry, and then by the time you were 4 years into Geek and Sundry, it was completely different shows and completely different hosts. So G4 in particular, I think, is probably going to try and sell itself as a brand and not a personality-driven collection of shows. So I think they'll try very hard not to have anybody be big enough to be associated directly with G4, to the point where G4 starts feeling like G4. Like their goal, I think, is fairly obvious, that they would like to be able to get rid of Kevin Pereira and Adam Sessler and still make you feel like it's G4. I mean, they don't even have Morgan Webb. They obviously aren't going to have Olivia Munn. So there's kind of a considerable amount of people that could have come back to G4 and didn't. By day 2, they were already streaming a video with Adam Savage as doing an interview, which they have never really done interviews on the Attack of the Show, or I think they probably did, but I don't feel like Attack of the Show in its modern time really is going to succeed doing interviews. So I also wouldn't be surprised if Adam Savage is tested, all of a sudden integrates itself heavily into G4, because I wouldn't be surprised if it is just like the same production company. With their new launch, they are going to have more couch conversations, and they have couches, whereas many years ago G4 was very much people standing always. Both Attack of the Show and X-Play was a full-length shot of somebody standing up. Now it's going for more of a laid-back group Talking Dead experience, which might change the feel a little bit, but probably wouldn't change it too much. They did during the launch and around the net, which that feels very antiquated nowadays, to just talk about videos that are on the internet on Attack of the Show. Yeah, inherently Attack of the Show as a concept completely falls apart in modern time. Like,
My wings and heart cry for blood.
so I don't have a lot of hope for it. What they're not saying they're going to do, and I suspect that is exactly the case. During the launch, they did make a joke about airing cops all the time, and that they weren't going to do that, which I imagine that's true. They won't air the show cops, but I wouldn't be surprised if the show very quickly does boil down to something like that, where they're airing. It might just be Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I love this job. Of course I do.
But yeah,
It looks like
they're not gonna do game trailers, I suspect. I bet that's never coming back, where they would make a TV show just showing game trailers. If they do bring it back, it may very well only air on the TV versions of the channel, and we may never get the YouTube or Twitch versions of the channel to air that. It doesn't look like they're going to air any kind of like gameplay of any games, so X-Play as a video game
everyone around me.
focus is just going to be people talking about video games. Maybe the completionist kind of merges his channel into G4 and then you start to see the completionists actually play games. But I wouldn't be surprised if the reason the completionist specifically went to G4 is because he was tired of playing games and making content that way.
I'll make good use of you.
Yeah. So yeah, I really don't have
Scatter like the
a lot of faith that G4 is even slightly on the path of doing the large amount of things it would have needed to do to actually make that concept work. I'm not sure the concept ever would have worked. If I was going to bring back G4, I think it would have to be much more game focused and much more 24/7 content focused. It doesn't feel like they're going to rerun anything. I would definitely have tried to get reruns of X-Play and other shows and have them rerun a lot.
The ruin of 6 heralds to sink. I will protect even
Let's
his
see.
death.
Moving on to more direct video game news. Video Game Chronicles has delayed the game Pragmata to 2023 to, quote, ensure it will be an unforgettable adventure. This is the game, and I guess we still have the blur on, where it's like a very like high-res girl. This actually doesn't seem like the blur is on still. And she is like on the moon, and then she teleports to a like destroyed Japan, like if I recall correctly. She seems to be fairly magical. Like it really was just this weird teaser. Yeah, I think my blur function isn't working anymore. Oh well, we tried. This guy's shooting spores, and then you can see using spores he's tracking the girl. And she's got this ghost hollow cat. So yeah, this definitely looked weird, to say the least. I don't even think I saw this trailer. I think I saw a different trailer. Yeah. But yeah. In a lot of ways, this is much like the other game with the dragons that I've already forgotten the name of. I was just talking about it, where there's some fancy hype building teasers, trailers, and that's it, and nothing anywhere close to an explanation about what the actual game is or how it would actually play or anything like that. Let's see. Video Games Chronicle says the PS5 is currently available in store and online at Argos, if you're interested. Mario Kart Live gets a big new update, adding split screen and relay racing, which it's fairly late to the party to add that, but I suppose it's a welcome improvement. Like, the last major update was in July to version 1.1.0, and now they're calling this 2.0. That's a fairly large change. It also adds a new Luigi Cup.
Nothing stops me once I got my speedy boots on.
Let's see. Following the PlayStation 4 patches, Xbox says it will also be looking to ensure games work after the CMOS dies, the battery inside dies.
What fine threads you have.
Video Games Chronicle says a Grand Theft Auto modders have decided to fight Take-Two's lawsuit. The creators of the RE3 project are willing to take the matter to court. They're saying they were sued by Take-Two for allegedly, and this is a great point where you should use allegedly, reverse engineering Grand Theft Auto source code, and they are refusing those accusations and are taking the issue to court. And yeah, I imagine at the very least that would get potentially tied up in court
What fine threads you have.
for a decent amount of time.
100% straight and 0
This is
spin in a
quick.
twirl and out. There's our copy the game.
And the legal versions of reverse engineering versus the illegal version of reverse engineering are way too complicated and way too ridiculous. If it is true reverse engineering, like white box, clean hands reverse engineering, then they should be legally in the clear. But if they somehow
100% straight
stole
and 0%
corporate
fluff.
secrets, and it's ridiculous that the government would protect corporate secrets at all,
This is
as is potentially a criminal matter or a civil matter. But yeah, if they did some kind of espionage, stole corporate secrets, then that would be a different case and not actually reverse engineering at that point. Moving on, Xbox consoles now have a new Xbox 360 dynamic theme. Players who buy the 20th anniversary controller can unlock another one,
I can't move.
which I don't know if you really want the old Xbox 360 theme. It's not particularly a good theme. Alright, let's do this. I guess you have no choice here, so to play this, do this, play this, you do this, play this, go and attack here, do this, play this, attack here, do this, do this, do this,
Watch as I wind and wind.
do this.
I'm out of cash.
Guess that's the way to play. Video Games Chronicle says leaked WWE 2K22 trailer shows off redesigned controls and a new showcase. I also heard just randomly that WWE has let go of several of their talent, which may not be that that different. I wouldn't be surprised if WWE is struggling heavily still from the pandemic, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they're doing just fine and it is just standard operating, that they would let go of some people to potentially even make room for somebody else.
Begin.
I think consistently over the years there's a case that WWE sticks to the few very successful and very popular wrestlers and doesn't give a chance to a lot of the people they do hire, and doesn't give a lot of chance to a lot of the people they don't hire, or all the people they don't hire probably would be more accurate. And since WWE is effectively a monopoly, in wrestling for most of its career. That hurts a lot of wrestlers who end up only being able to do independent circuits or backyard wrestling events. Okay. If we do this,
And relax.
then we do this, and we give Bane to this.
Everything was a lie.
We can do that.
Do you understand now?
We can go ahead and
The
hit
truth
that.
will cut you down.
We can have that. We can draw a couple
My
cards.
beloved Nava.
Attack here. We'll just evolve and attack here. And end the turn. As much as it sounds like making some changes as far as the wrestling games is probably a good thing, I really don't have a lot of faith that any real changes are going to be good enough to get us to that step it needs to be to have
Listen to your heart and acknowledge defeat.
have an actual good wrestling game.
Nothing stops me once I got my speedy boots
I would
on.
be happy enough if just the next wrestling game is just several steps better than the previous ones, and it is setting the stage for a good wrestling game in 2 or 3 years from now, or 2 or 3 releases and iterations from now, whichever way it goes.
Done, ain't ya?
Alright, well,
Accept harmony.
we can just
I'm out of cash.
get rid of a couple people
This is my fate after
and
all.
do 3 more damage for the win. Video Game Chronicles says Warner Brothers Games has officially announced Multiverses. It's a free-to-play crossover fighter. It includes Batman, Bugs Bunny, Shaggy, and other WB characters will fight in a Smash Brothers style fighting game. So this is about the 4th or 5th
Shade imaginable.
game now that have been announced after the assumed conclusion of Smash Brothers for a while. Like here you have Harley Quinn, here you have Batman. Not specifically that this Batman and this Harley Quinn are connected. You have Shaggy here, and Tom and Jerry, and Bugs Bunny, and Wonder Woman, and then you have a stretchy yellow arm that I don't place, and this robotic arm looks familiar but I don't place, and this foot I don't place. So yeah, remember Warner Brothers Games was acquired not too long ago at Adventure Time. Jake, let's see if we can pause. So I don't recognize. Let's see if we can play. Do this.
All of you.
Hostile life form detected. Terminating hostile life form.
Do you understand now?
Time stops for no man.
Let's see. So you have Superman, Batman, Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny.
You ain't seen nothing
You have
yet.
Jake from Adventure Time. You have Wonder Woman. Now I don't know if these Batmans, Supermans are from any character, anything at all. You have a character I don't recognize that's some kind of green alien, Shaggy. You have,
And magic are two sides of the same.
I want to say even Steven, but that's not it. Steven Universe, maybe? I think this character is also Steven Universe. Harley Quinn.
A glimpse into the
I
future.
don't know who this is supposed to be. There you have another Adventure Time character. Now, Warner Brothers has a ton of characters and totally could do a lot, particularly when you get into like the Hanna-Barbera and Looney Tunes characters, if you just want to try and slowly release those characters. The newer cartoons, I think not so much. Let's see. Arya Stark from Game of Thrones is apparently who that is. That seems very weird and out there considering everybody else is somewhat kid-friendly. Finn the Human, Jake the Dog, Steven Universe from Steven Universe, and Garnet from Steven Universe. And then Rin Dog, I guess that's who this is supposed to be an original character, so at least it makes sense why I wasn't able to place that character. There's some screenshots here of different costumes that will unlock. In a lot of ways, I think they're getting kind of ridiculous, though, because we really need just like one ring to rule them all, which is a great reference to make, considering it's Warner Brothers, who also has, I think, the licenses to Lord of the Rings. But yeah, we needed one PC fighting game that would have included all of these characters instead of having a Nickelodeon version of this game and a Warner Brothers version of this game and a Nintendo version of this game that has already negotiated the license to have a ton of other crossover characters from other series and brands.
I bring unto you serenity.
Particularly when you recognize that if one of these Smash Brothers clones is going to succeed, it's only going to succeed if the fighting game community embraces it. You're overwhelming the fighting game community now, where they're going to have to make some hard choices as far as what gets played at the next EVO. And I wouldn't be surprised if none of them get played at the next EVO, and then they all get ignored even-handedly. Let's see. Video Games Chronicle says the GameCube is 20. Nintendo insiders on the failed console that changed the industry. Did the GameCube really fail? I guess people think it did. I guess the GameCube probably didn't sell anyway as much as Nintendo wanted, but I don't know if I would really consider it a failure. But I also would say, as someone who did have like all the consoles up to the Wii, the GameCube is one of those consoles that I remember the least about. So, actually, I didn't have a Super NES, which is a pretty bad one to skip over.
What fine threads you have.
I'm not sure I ever actually got a Super NES or played a Super NES. I definitely didn't have it during its launch window.
I can't move. A precious life deserves a precious death.
And it seemed like the Wii was released exactly on the same day as the GameCube, so it's like, I think the Wii is 15 years old. Nah, that wouldn't make sense. If the GameCube is 20 years old. We'll have to talk about that story when we get to it.
I paid so much for that axe.
Verifying access.
Video Games Chronicles, Sony has detailed its PlayStation Black Friday sale, which I imagine is mostly just going to be games, because it's not like the PlayStation has a ton of hardware that they could put on sale. There's a whole bunch of games here and they're not even listing the price. Kind of feels like almost everything of any interest is on sale. Jump Force is on sale, even though Jump Force is on the chopping block. Surprisingly few Lego games on sale. Yep. But yeah, generally this does kind of feel like almost everything. Looking at this list, even though it does include a lot of things that are just upgraded versions or DLC, it does put the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 lineup in a slightly better light in my mind than I normally would think, because generally I feel like there's about 36 it feels like there's about 36 games that have been released in general as exclusives or as
I'll see you in purgatory.
As anything for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And I bet there probably is about only 36 worth mentioning. Next week's Epic Game Store freebie has been revealed. It's a $15 worth of in-game currency for the streaming service Antstream Arcade, which is kinda not a video game. Seems to be a store inside of a store to stream a bunch of old games, which I don't know why you would do this deal at all, other than if Epic is thinking about acquiring Antstream Arcade, which wouldn't be a terrible thought if Epic is going to try and succeed. Although I'm not sure Epic is in a good position to acquire anybody in the middle of lawsuits and accusations of other companies being monopolies. And running a storefront at this point makes it slightly harder to acquire a company, because that feels like you would then promote your own content better than other people's content. Valve got away with doing that, but only because Valve barely makes any games.
Everything was a lie.
Moving on, Phil Spencer is evaluating Xbox's relationship with Activision following the Kotick allegations. The Xbox boss says the team is, quote, disturbed and deeply troubled by recent events. So we're now seeing even other CEOs turn on Bobby Kotick in a fairly heavy way, more than we've probably ever seen before. So I can't help but just assume that Bobby Kotick has no more friends in the industry, if he ever did. And I think he's done. I think at that point, when you have other people that you do business with, particularly when you have like the Phil Spencer, the guy in charge of Xbox, coming out publicly and saying something like that, this relationship has been destroyed, whether it's your fault or not. You're gonna have to, for the good of your own stock options and shares, you're gonna have to at this point say, I think I'm gonna retire. And frankly, you could do that in a fairly snobby way too, if you wanted to. You could say, like, due to the constant harassment I've been receiving while I've been trying valiantly to steer the ship correctly, I can no longer take it. I've received, you can lie even if it's not true, and say you've received harassment and threats against yourself and your family, and as such, we want to no longer be involved with the company, and I'm just going to retire.
Come on.
Like, you could take your stock options and go home. And you could certainly paint it as a thing that I was told that Bobby Kotick is totally innocent and all the claims against him are just fabricated cancel culture garbage. Because kind of at this point, cancel culture, which I don't think really is what's happening with Bobby Kotick. Some of that's happening, but that's not the core of the issue by any means. Like, cancel culture, though, really wants you dead. It doesn't want you out of the business. So it's not like you're going to give them a satisfactory victory by saying I'm going to retire and then blaming them for it. A more truthful response would be to retire and say it's been made apparent that I've become a distraction, while I still 100% maintain my innocence. Me being the CEO has become a distraction towards Activision's goal to correct things, so I'm going to retire. I don't really get the more double down mentality that they're trying right now. I mean, you could double down, and they have doubled down, but a triple or quadruple down concept of just like, no, I'm never gonna leave, I'm gonna stick my heels in, seems like a bad mentality. If your goal is to actually make money, now arguably if your goal is just to win an argument, then digging your heels in and staying with the company and steering the ship directly into the iceberg might be exactly what you are going to do or what you want to do. But if you're just able to take a step back and realize that your main goal as a CEO is to make yourself money and make other people money, I think Bobby Kotick does himself a favor by retiring. Although in the case of Bobby Kotick and Activision Blizzard, he was like the most overpaid person ever, so even if he takes a golden parachute and retires, he's probably still going to make considerably less money than what he thinks he could. Moving on, Video Games Chronicle says Atari has now fixed the errors after wrongfully attributing a new unreleased games to the legendary designer. Howard Scott Warsaw told Video Game Chronicles he had nothing to do with the $50 products. Atari said that they made an error and wrongly attributing its new unreleased games to legendary design. It has now fixed it. What sucks about this article and this incident in particular is that it seems like Atari says they fixed the error, but they're not naming the new person who would have been in charge of making these games. Until way lower in this article. Yar's Return was a homebrew adaptation by Kurt Vindel of Howard Scott Warsaw's game Yar's Revenge. And then Dennis Deborah worked on Kurt's direction to make some improvements and enhancements, and that revised version was later included in later releases of Flashback. So yeah, seems like they made a fairly honest mistake there and fairly quickly adjusted it. So I think you probably would just want to leave it at that. How they made an honest mistake, well, the Atari that exists now is not the Atari that existed many decades ago, so it's probably being run by a bunch of people that have no idea what they're doing, if I would guess. Moving on, CD Projekt denies the Cyberpunk Game Pass plans are coming up. There was footage that appeared in marketing. There are no Game Pass plans for Cyberpunk 2077. I don't even think it's much of a value add to add Cyberpunk 2077 to Games Pass at this point. Obviously, at some point it very easily could end up on Games Pass, but we would have to do a little bit of research to even see if Witcher 3 ever came to Games Pass. Let's see. Halo Infinite was designed for normal difficulty for the first time, says 343. Whereas previous Halo games had been more designed for heroic difficulty. Which, yeah. I do know a lot of people played Halo. Would play it on very high difficulties, and then there were skull modifiers in some of the Halo games to make the difficulty even higher. A lot of that certainly also was around the reasoning that people playing Halo were playing it over and over again quite often.
Yeah, I love this job. Of course I do.
A flash of metal, a silent night.
Video Games Chronicle says Halo campaign interview. We don't like calling this an open world game. I think that's probably going to be accurate. I doubt Halo single player campaign is going to be anywhere close to open world. They have the Black Friday sales offering up to 50% on games. We already kind of talked about this, but Video Games Chronicle kind of narrowed it down. Resident Evil Village, again being one of the games that looks like it's fairly nicely discounted.
Check.
The
Frills,
Control,
double check.
oh no, this is Control the Game Ultimate Edition for $11.99, which is getting to
Want to play?
probably a decent value at that point.
Time to finish this.
I was
Adorably,
thinking
of course.
that was the Ultimate Controller, or the Pro Controller, whatever it's called. Video Games Chronicle, the best 30 Wii games you need to revisit, which this is a listicle, certainly. I'm gonna have to...
What you need is a nice. What you need is a nice roaring flame.
Let's see. 5 damage to a random
It's your
enemy in the turn.
kindling.
Sorry, going quiet again. Basically having to take a whole breath and a whole few seconds of a break just to readjust yourself in the chair. There probably are some decent games on the Wii that never came out to anything else that deserve some remakes. The Sin and Punishment successor of the Skies, for instance, not a game I recognize. So maybe the Sin and Punishment series makes sense. I think some of the older Animal Crossing games might have an argument to be remade, although in a lot of ways one Animal Crossing game is the same. Bid Trip Complete, I think, is on PC. Boom Blocks was the game made by Steven Spielberg, and it has reasons. Certainly it was produced by Steven Spielberg, which very much means he did very little on it. Not a terrible thought just for the Steven Spielberg reference to bring that to VR or to just bring it to PC. Kirby's Epic Yarn, totally should use a remake. DJ Hero 1 and 2, no, because then you have to bring in those plastic DJ devices unless you bring it to VR, and that seems like a lot.
That's hot.
Yeah, I can't agree with the DJ Hero concept. Excite Truck and Excite Bikes. Yeah, reboots of some of these games would make a lot more sense than remasters. Beat the Beat Rhythm Paradise. It's kind of a WarioWare game before WarioWare. Cloniola, never even heard of it. No More Heroes 1 and 2. I think we have those on PC at this point, and we're maybe just waiting for No More Heroes 3. House of the Dead Overkill, specifically, may be a Wii exclusive, but maybe not. It very easily could just have been ported to PC. We do have Typing of the Dead. I'm not sure if we actually have all the House of the Dead games. NBA Jam would be interesting, certainly, but you're also not going to we're not going to be able to get the licenses and the likenesses, and that would be weird. The Wii Punch-Out game, which very few people I think even know exists, definitely should be re-released on Switch. Like, if Nintendo was smarter, they would have re-released several of these games already.
Life's a gamble. May as well have fun.
You can't, like, do too much releasing Punch-Out and Super Punch-Out on the eShop. So, bringing this out and selling it for like $15 would make a lot more sense, particularly if you remaster it. Super Paper Mario, I don't think they want to bring out Super Paper Mario, but there's really no good reason not to do it. Another Code R, that's probably a game that deserves a reboot, the Another Code series, as these are kind of point-and-click adventure mystery games that were somewhat done.
Bones of white.
The Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles and Darkside Chronicles are actually very good, but they are kind of great examples of games that worked really well because of the Wiimote and the direct aiming of a gun as on-rail shooters showing a cutscene. I don't know if you can have that with controller input or mouse input. So, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if you did remake and re-release the Umbrella Chronicles games, if they would actually be very poorly received by modern standards. I mean, it was just an on-rail shooter with some like pickups that you shot to get health or collectibles. if you were to remaster or re-release something like Xenoblade Chronicles, it would be another JRPG, and I'm not sure anybody even now has extra time to play an old JRPG. Even deep fans of the Xenoblade series are probably onto the most recent Xenoblade game. New Super Mario Bros. Wii. I think this has been ported to Switch. Zack and Wiki deserves to be remade. The two characters are fine, but the actual game is so heavily integrated into the Wii, there's no way you could port it to anything else other than the Switch. Like, I actually owned this and played this, and if they say a little over 300,000 copies were sold worldwide, that very well means that my copy of Zack and Wiki might be in like one of 30,000 copies that still exist in the world. I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of 30,000 copies still around. I don't think it would be really worth anything, even at that, relatively speaking.
And so our pact is finished.
Tatsunoko versus Capcom Ultimate All-Stars. I mean, this is a 2.5 3D fighting game.
Like the moon on the water's surface.
Not a Smash Brothers game. But I suppose that's what these Smash Brothers clones really are doing now, is that they're just doing what in previous generations would have been 2D fighting games, including a bunch of weird characters. Let's see. Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword has been remade and arguably is in a better version in its more recent release. Silent Hill, Shadow Memories. Yeah, in theory, if the source code still existed for any of the Silent Hill games, which I don't think it does, for at least the first couple of games, you'd want to see a remake. You'd also want to see a reboot, but we know that Konami's not going to do any of that, so I think people are just self-flagellating themselves at this point and just hurting themselves by caring about Silent Hill. It's just time to let it go. Donkey Kong Country Returns. Yeah, that should be on the Switch, if it isn't already. Although a lot of these games would be great, a lot of the Nintendo games would be great if they came to PC or some other console on top of the Nintendo Switch. That would be definitely a way that Nintendo could dip their toe into PC game releases, is just releasing remakes or ports of their old games that they don't really care about, while leaving the Switch to be the platform for kids and the platform for new games. I guess you do this and then this, and then I guess you do this.
This'll be over quick.
Let's see what else. Wii Sports Resort. Yeah, it would have made a lot of sense to re-release that day one of the Switch launch. The Resident Evil 4 Wii Edition is a really good version, but I think kind of at this point we should just hope for the remaster remake of Resident Evil 4 to be way better. Playing Smash Brothers Brawl versus the most recent Smash Brothers is probably not worth it. Like, it would be really ridiculous to try and play all the Smash Brothers games from the beginning and unlock all the trophies and all the unlocks. The Metroid Prime trilogy. Theoretically, the newer versions of those are going to be out fairly soon, so it would be kind of silly to play those right now. I should have played this first, then this. Then it would give me this, and I could play this, and then it would unlock the other one, too.
Hold still.
Some of these don't make sense because we know there's a new version or a better version. Mario Kart Wii, for instance, is probably not worth playing compared to more recent Mario Kart games. Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, I mean, playing it on the Wii is probably still the better way to play it compared to the re-release of just Galaxy 1. And then they're talking about a whole bunch of Call of Duty games on the Wii, which is kind of ridiculous. The Conduit 1 and 2. I don't even know what the Conduit is. Fatal Frame, Mask of Lunar Eclipse. The whole Fatal Frame series needs to be rebooted and re-released and done well. Fire Emblem games. I mean, I think there is an argument that that series also needs to be re-released.
This will be over quick.
Okay.
Hold still. Hold still.
Let's see, Ghost Squad, I don't know, Guitar Hero and Rock Band 3. I doubt that would be worth playing. Kirby's Adventure Wii. Kororinpa. Never even heard of this. Glass Story I haven't heard of. The Little King Story I haven't heard of. Kami is on PC. A lot of these are on PC. Red Steel 1 is being skipped here. Red Steel 2 is being suggested. I think a reboot of the Red Steel concept might work, but the entire concept around Red Steel only existed in the first place because of the Wiimote. Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Colors were re-released, and WarioWare Smooth Moves, maybe that could be re-released. Okay, you do this.
100% string and
And then you do
0%.
this.
This will be over
String in a
quick.
twirl and up. There's our copy the
Hold
game.
still. Hold still.
So that's quite the list. Video Games Chronicles final article for today, probably. Says Halo Infinite campaign co-op and Forge mode suffer further delays. The features have been pushed back again. I kind of don't care at this point though. Just let it all be delayed, and much better that it's an actual good game when it comes out versus it coming out on time. Guess what you want to do is
What
this
threads you have?
and this.
A spin in a twirl.
This will be over quick.
There's our puppy the game.
Hit that. Then we'll evolve.
Begin.
And hit that.
Pretty
And then
handy
we'll
after
hit
all.
that.
On to the next experiment.
And then we'll just
Watch as I
attack
wind
and end the
wind.
turn. Gamatsu has an article here. A game called Ludo, L-U-T-O, launches in 2022 for the PS5, PS4, and PC. It looks like it's probably a somewhat spooky game because there's a ghost.
Glorious flower
Although maybe
blooms
not
over
that
the
spooky
homeland.
because the ghost looks just like somebody has a sheet over their head.
Why is it the string is so pricey?
I can't move.
There's a movie where
Shade imaginable.
you follow the ghost, which was just a person with a sheet over their head, and I'm not sure if the movie, as I skipped through it and didn't actually watch it, really actually was a ghost and it was just a metaphor, or if it was just a low budget way to depict someone as a ghost. With a name like Ludo, I think Ludo narrative dissonance, and so I wonder if this is the idea of losing control or controlling the ghost or not. Does look like it's a very scary game. Oddly, that trailer felt a little blurry, so maybe the blur is back on. Maybe it was just not working for a brief time there.
All of you.
This,
What?
and then do this.
I'm out of cash.
Attack here. And then return. Let's see, we already talked about this Mario Kart Live Home Circuit version 2.0 update. Adds relay race and split screen multiplayer.
Right away.
Check that out if you're interested.
I could
The
get
Gungrave
used to this
Gore
one.
Korean voice cast has been announced. Check that out if you're interested. Compile Heart has launched a Neptunia Sisters new title teaser website, and the story has been updated. So it seems like it's taken some of the characters from the Neptunia series and is going for some maybe a K-pop music game spin-off or a more kid-friendly game. Now the Neptunia games aren't particularly not kid-friendly, but the last game was a crossover with the Senran Kagura games, which are particularly not kid-friendly. They're lewd, to say the least.
This world is filled with mystery.
All of you.
So I wouldn't be surprised if this is just a swing in the other direction
This world
as
is
an
filled
effort
with
to
mystery.
maybe balance out sales. Maybe Compile Heart thinks they can make one game that's more in their style and their liking as an adult game, and then they need to make up the losses from that by
Farewell,
making a
Iron.
kid-friendly game. Or it could be that it's completely not kid-friendly. All we see right now is just that shadow in this trailer.
Delta Cannon, releasing limiters.
With a name like Compile Heart, you pretty much expect the games they make to either be cutesy or to be adult in nature. Yep. It does seem like this is probably a rhythm music game from the looks of it, and showing off the legs. And Neptunia from these angles does not really feel like the Neptunia. She feels younger. So So, yeah. Seems like they may be taking the Neptunia characters in a different direction. Through random followers.
And sees that you carry out your mission.
This world is
Okay.
filled with mystery.
Here.
Hostile life form detected.
And we'll discard and draw from that one.
Where are you?
And we'll go ahead and do
Hostile life
that.
form detected.
They're all in the turn. We already said Pragmata has been delayed, so we don't need to talk about that again.
How fun it is to converse.
It might as well have been delayed. They barely had even teased it. A game called Shikabana Gurai no Boken Mishi details its dungeon exploration, monsters, adventures, adventure food, and more. This looks like chibi JRPG characters in a positional placement style game. Seems like food may play a fairly big role in the gameplay. This is one of those games that looks like it's got a ton of text in it and probably is fairly grindy. I don't know, I don't think that really works for me though. The positional placement probably does not get offset by the idea that you're going to grind to find ingredients to cook. Like the last cooking game had a lot of grinding to find ingredients also, and that really didn't work for me.
On to the next experiment.
Verifying access.
Well, that did not work.
Sleep.
Let's see. Next game is also food related. Miracle Snack Shop for Switch launches December 2nd. Includes a downloadable content Philia after story, which, yeah, this definitely feels like it's half food game and half visual novel. Just a lot going on here. See if we can jump to the trailer and see anything more. Seems like it is mostly a visual novel. We're not getting victories very fast today, but whatever. I kind of don't even care. Let's just see if we can get some quick disconnects, get through the news, and be done. Tencent has acquired a minority stake in Platonic Games. This is the makers of the, what is it?
I bring unto you serenity.
You dare to defy the shadows?
Trying to think. Yooka-Laylee series. Yeah. Tencent getting minor stakes in lots of companies, certainly, but then also kind of acquiring a lot of companies too, so maybe that's the first step. Loop Hero for the Switch launches December 9th according to Gamatsu. Check that out if you're interested. It's currently on PC. We already talked about the Warner Brothers game. If this is free to play, I feel like it's gonna have some ridiculous microtransactions in it from Warner Brothers, unless we just see a kinder, more considerate Warner Brothers after the acquisition, which would be kind of crazy. But who knows what happens? Like, there is always that small case that a company gets acquired or traded off to a different company, and then all of a sudden they become a better company for it. But it's kind of like saying that on a rare occasion some kids who are put in the foster care system are better for it. Yeah, in a lot of cases they are, but in a lot of cases the foster system fails them pretty miserably, and they're in a bad situation either way. Moving on, Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duel Dawn of Battle Royale launches December 7th in the West, which,
Gonna have to fix myself
yep,
up.
yet another Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. The idea of Rush Duel does sound interesting, though, because there's one thing any collectible card game could benefit from, is the idea of moving faster. Although, honestly, if this is a game where you have to play faster, then it doesn't really satisfy my needs as a collectible card game, since I only really want to play one collectible card game when I'm live streaming for my live streams, and I am going to always get distracted when talking about the news, and that's going to limit my ability to react fast.
Where are you?
A game called Egglia Rebirth has been announced for Switch, and this article's been updated on Gamatsu. You'd almost think that everybody would be made out of an egg with a name like that, but nope. This is a very weird art style, like almost like Cupid doll art style, if for lack of a better description. Yep. Just like really weird animation faces. Done fairly badly, I think intentionally, to make everything look ugly. Yeah. Maybe they're supposed to be like elves from Europe or something, and they took inspiration from some kind of art that I just am not used to seeing.
That was almost amusing.
I'm starting to yawn now. Gunfire Reborn exits early access for PCs and is coming to consoles in 2022. This is a game I don't remember. Came out 6 months ago, sold 2 million in sales. So how did I miss it completely? Probably because the graphics look pretty bad. Either that or it is a multiplayer focused game and I just dismissed it because of that. And frankly, I'm still going to dismiss it for that reason. Yeah, this game is on the fall list. It claims to have a single player concept. It's an adventure level based game with first person shooting, roguelike, and RPG elements. There's no way I can dismiss this. It's got to go to the wish list. Yeah. Came out of early access, which very rarely do things actually come out of early access, even.
I paid so much for that axe.
All of you.
Let's see. Gamatsu has Bramble the Mountain King, the Land of Bramble gameplay trailer. This is a game I have not heard of. It feels like it's based on an Aesop's fable or one of those old fairy tales. Kid crawling out the window. Looks like it's probably a 3D adventure game. It looks interesting. Arguably, maybe there's not quite enough polish around it, but also I'm looking at the trailer through the filter that's blurring things, so it might look a lot better when it's not blurry. That is certainly the danger. I'd say this static image, though, does feel like there could be a little bit more improvement on that,
Truth and lies.
on the 3D models.
will cut you
Terminating
down.
hostile life
I'll
form.
see you in purgatory.
Verifying
Let's
access.
see. Let's see. The game Sifu release date has been moved up to February 8th. Combat and Death and the Aging overview trailers have been released. This is an extremely rare instance in which games are being sped up. If this is the game, I think it is. It's a game where you're kind of just in this constant battle. Which might be a little tiring if the entire game is just a constant battle. In a lot of ways, it might not be too different from a game I covered fairly recently that was a remake of a very old game. Karateka. Yeah, this feels very much like a slight improvement on the remake of Karateka, and that you're going to have these prompts and then you're going to have rhythm and beats that tell you to press the buttons at a specific point, and then you're pretty much just on a track as far as moving forward. I don't know if there's enough game concept there for that to work. It barely worked with the reboot of Karateka. Not enough to make me want to play Karateka.
Hostile life form.
Enough to get all the achievements on it.
Verifying access.
And this could be an attempt at merging a rhythm game and a beat 'em up game. But I don't know. I don't know if that's really gonna work or not. I mean, this entire trailer is just beating people up as one or two different characters.
Shutting down.
I would definitely like to see this concept, some reviews around this game when it comes out, though. Death and aging system. Seems like every time you die, you become older, which seems like that would only make the game more difficult, not easier. Let's actually play a little bit. Although I shouldn't even bother to try and play.
And sees that you carry out your mission.
Don't think it's gonna matter. Story of Seasons, Pioneers of Olive Town, version 1.1.0 update, launches November 9th, adds spirit quests. This is a game that I have kind of completely forgotten even came out, and I'll just leave it at that. Unbound World of Parts launches February 9th for PS5 and PS4, and February 11th for Xbox Series 1 and Xbox One. This is a game that I think is on our fall list. Although I don't know if it actually is coming to PC. It's actually not listed here as coming to PC, so very possibly isn't on the fall list. Looks like it's a platformer, puzzler, adventure game with some kind of world manipulation, portal technology.
Oh, my beloved Nava.
Hit that.
100% string and 0% fluff.
Hit that.
A spin and a twirl and up.
Play that
There's
and
our
that.
puppet again.
evolve.
Begin.
And
Watch as I wind and wind.
I'll see you in purgatory.
hit that one. And hit that one. I am feeling tired again, so I mean, we gotta get through these games, but this is gonna be a slog. The Famitsu Sales have been updated, so now they have like 11 through 30. There's some new games certainly here that are not even making it in the top 10, so they're not succeeding particularly well. Laid Back Camp, Have a Nice Day, for instance, is 13th spot. That's not too bad for the Switch. Whereas Laid Back Camp for the PlayStation 4 is the 23rd spot. Series X still fairly low, but beating the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition. But the Series S is still very high, surprisingly high. Don Patchy Resurrection for Switch launches November 25th. This is what kind of game? A shoot 'em up game. Yeah, nothing really in this screenshot tells me that this is actually a shoot 'em up game. They're keeping that one close to the chest.
What fine threads you have. Oh, my beloved Nava.
Leftmost card. Might as well be that.
Fulfills my existence.
Hostile life form detected.
This'll be over quick.
Okay.
Terminating hostile life form. Heavy impact sustained.
Sleep.
Is that all you have to show? Let us learn together.
That was almost amusing.
Let's see. Moving on, Final Fantasy VII, The First Soldier, tops 1 million downloads. 1 million downloads, I guess maybe as a smartphone free-to-play game, is the biggest number they can probably promote. Atelier Sophie 2, The Alchemist of the Mysterious Dream, Sophia New Miller trailer has been released. So, trailer for the next Atelier Sophia game. Magatsu Barai opening movie for this visual novel has been released, which looks like it's fairly nicely animated, and it looks like it's a Switch visual novel first and foremost. Seems like they fight evil spirits. Wow, that was not what I was expecting. I guess the blur can be helpful in a couple different places. I guess if we see nearly naked harpy lady in anime form, we should probably not go any further. So yeah, a Nintendo Switch visual novel with a surprising nearly naked harpy lady in the middle of the trailer. And I'll leave it at that. Gamatsu has Monster Rancher 1 and 2 DX World Tournaments being announced. Apparently it's coming to PC, smartphone, and Switch. These are probably re-releases or ports of old games from the looks of them. And I think it would be fairly hard to get into playing, which is effectively a Pokemon clone, even if it came out before Pokemon in modern time. I'd be much more interested in playing a modern Pokemon clone than playing Monster Rancher, which is a series that really has no more relevancy anymore. Okay, we got a second quick disconnect. That's getting us these chests. rewards, which is nice.
My blade has paid your passage into the afterlife.
I'm not even paying attention to the battle passes anymore, so I have no idea if I'm getting anywhere close to unlocking everything you'd want to unlock as far as the battle passes. I would need two quick disconnects fairly quickly to get everything done today, or at least a couple of goals done today. A game called Famitsu adds a PS5 and Xbox Series version and has been delayed to 2022. Don't recognize this game. First time I think I've seen it. It definitely looks like it is a Dark Souls type game, action RPG tag on it. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything of interest. Yeah. And then a game called Metal Hellsinger has been delayed to 2022. The PS4 and Xbox One versions also have been canceled. This again feels like a game that I've never heard of. It is possible that these are games that were announced nearly a year or two ago, and so much has happened I've just forgotten about them. That's our last Gematsu article. GameDeveloper.com says Tencent nabs a minority stake in the ukulele developer Platonic. We already talked about that. GDC is returning to San Francisco to celebrate game developer community in person. GDC, again, owned by the same parent company as GameDeveloper.com. Nintendo has launched an official Super Smash Bros. Tournament circuit, I think, some weird way to just ensure that people keep playing the Super Smash Bros. They want to play. They want people to play, which I don't know if that really is Super Smash Brothers, as it is potentially like some of the other Smash Brothers games. Particularly, they want people to play Ultimate, and I think they are throwing people a bone and also allowing them to play Melee.
Do not seek what is not there.
But the general concept is people want to be able to play some of the Smash Brothers on modded consoles so they can capture game footage of them, or even on emulators so they can capture game footage, and Nintendo absolutely does not want to support that, and thus Evo has been at this locked in this argument with Nintendo as far as whether or not they're going to support the Evo tournaments having Smash Brothers as an option or not. We already talked about it, but I'll say it again. Phil Spencer says Xbox is co-developing its relationship with Activision Blizzard. Forza Horizon 5 sets an Xbox Game Pass launch record with over 10 million players. They have an opinion piece that says Halo Infinite's tedious battle pass is bringing him down, whoever the news editor Chris Kerr. It's kind of ridiculous to write an opinion piece particularly like that, but whatever. Or at least a headline particularly like that. Let's see. Nordisk Games has taken a majority stake in Star Stable Entertainment, a Swedish studio behind the multiplayer horse adventure game Star Stable Online. So, yeah, I don't recognize any of them. Either one of those companies. And then GameDeveloper.com says update. Over 1,000 Activision Blizzard employees, and I am going to take their word for this, are actual employees, current employees, not former employees, I'm assuming, have signed a petition calling for Bobby Kotick's removal. And I will have to give applause here to say once you've got 1,000 people signing a petition that all work at your company,
My
those are
blade
real
has paid your
numbers.
passage into the afterlife.
That being said, you're kind of in this weird position where A, you're not taking a step towards unionization really, and B, if you were taking steps to unionization and had managed to become a union, unions would not in any way particularly be interested in they wouldn't be too interested in the removal of a CEO so much, like, because unions kind of hate the management no matter what. They are in this adversarial role, and they kind of have to be in this adversarial role, so like they tend not to try and negotiate for a CEO to be let go. This is a very special case, of course, but like the two desires are kind of in different directions. It is a very different focus. And I can't help but wonder if Activision Blizzard employees actually just focused in on becoming a real union, they wouldn't be able to clean up the company a lot better. And Bobby Kotick is probably at this point already out the door, or he's just never going anywhere. Anyways. Whereas maybe a union can get rid of the middle management people, or at least protect people from being harassed again by middle management people. But then again, also if you had a union and it really was going to come down to potentially filing criminal charges or civil case and suing Bobby Kotick, you probably have a lot more success there than just signing a petition. Petitions are particularly worthless and ineffective. I don't think they've ever been effective. And then I think we'll just do some yes-no again with games. Here we have one called Doomsday Dispute, which doesn't look great, but I think I'll say yes. It's free to play with in-app purchases, so in that case I'll say no. Here we have a game called Aikagi, which looks like a visual novel anime game. Doesn't seem to have any adult content. It's $19.99, Japanese full audio, and English. We'll put it on the fall list, I guess, just in case. Here we have a game called Blocktopia, which looks like a Minecraft clone Chinese game. Free English, Japanese, and Korean. No to that. Shouldn't bother to play at all. Here we have a game called The Tomb of the Ultra 5, which we can say immediately no to. Early access $3.99 English. Here we have The Day After Day, which looks poorly animated, so we can say no to. Free English early access. Here we have a game called Key, which looks like nothing. 74 cents English early access. Here we have a game called Jubilee, which I suspect it probably isn't anything, but I'll give it a chance. $8.99 English only. Put that on the fall list. If we are going to move faster here, I am going to have to be more lenient. Yeah, we have a game called Marauder, which looks like it's a real-time strategy game. Early access, $17.99. Several languages. Put that on the fall list. Here we have a game called Space Moth Lunar Edition, which I think is no. Interesting idea to make a shoot 'em up where you play as a space moth, but not intriguing enough for me. $6.79, bunch of languages. I'm just not gonna play Here we have a game called Squid Survival, which is just clearly another Squid game, rushed, low effort game, 179 English and several other languages. Here we have a game called Myth of Empires, which is already mixed, so that's going to be a no. It's early access, $26.99. It's an MMO anyways. Here we have something that looks like garbage. Laypoke Country Simulator, $9.99. English only. Here we have a game called Alien Abduction Experience PC HD, which I'm going to say no to. 99 cents, VR, bunch of languages. Here we have a game called Five Dreams, which looks like it's probably an asset flip game, but maybe there's something here. VR and standard non-VR game, 99 cents. It's a little too cheap for VR, but yeah, I think I'll say no to it. I suspect there's not enough of an actual game there. Here we have something called Jetpack Vacation, which I don't think there's a game here I'd want to play. Seems to be mostly a Rocket League clone. $6.69, English only. One of the things that I probably need to realize is I have Rocket League, but I'm not sure you can even buy Rocket League now on Steam, so me covering it, I do want to cover it and play it, but might be in a very weird position with that. This Sucker Punch VR doesn't look like enough of a game to interest me. $16.99. Generally, I should just get rid of all the VR games at this level. Railway Islands puzzle. Yeah, there might be something, so we'll put it on the fall list. Yeah, we have one that's all in Asian characters, so I bet doesn't support English. Yes, just Japanese and Chinese. Looks like it's a visual novel dating sim using some characters from like Sword Art Online, or that look like the characters from Sword Art Online. This looks like a garbage game. $4.24, English only. This looks like a low effort game. 84 cents, English only. Here we have a game called Our Mother's House, which looks like bad graphics and dark screenshot syndrome. $4.24, English. Here we have a game called Other Soul, which just looks like it's a horror asset flip game. $1.99, English only. Here we have a game called Beyond Dreams, which doesn't really look that good. $8.99, English and Chinese. Here we have a game called Base Dune, which looks like nothing. $1.59, English only. Here we have a game called Novena Diablos, which looks like it's a visual novel with a slightly different art style. Like the characters are a little bit stretched out and have longer necks. I'm gonna put this on the follow list as a visual novel horror game. It's English and Korean, $13.59. That might explain for the art style being slightly off. It's kind of crazy how specific different art styles are to different regions, and they can look very similar, but there are very noticeable differences. This game, The Madhouse, looks like nothing. $8.99, English, Japanese, and Chinese. Here we have a game called Twinland. I don't think there's a game here worth playing. $6.99, English only. Blocks 3D World is just a Minecraft clone. $4.99, English only. Here we have a game called Smoots Golf, which looks like a putt-putt game. There might be something to that. $8.49 English and Spanish. So we'll put that on the fall list. Here we have a Lust for Darkness VR M Edition, which I'll put on the fall list just to check out later. It's weird because it's probably not any better of a game in VR, if not a worse game in VR, compared to just playing it like in a regular game. And then the M Edition, I wonder if that means that's mature. This virtual reality version also is probably just an advertisement for Lust from Beyond M Edition, which it's funny, I guess now they're adding M to the end of them, which what's weird is it says Lust for Darkness VR M Edition contains violence, blood, and gore. No sexual content, but the whole thing of Lust for Darkness was it was full of sexual content. Is this a censored version? Yeah, that seems very weird. I mean, how can you even have a image like this? Yeah, that seems ridiculous that you would have different editions. The M Edition for Lust from Beyond says it has nudity and erotic themes. Wow. So I have no idea what in the world is going on here. As far as all of a sudden there are M editions of games. Is this one out? Yeah. So when did this come out? Lust from Beyond Scarlet as a free-to-play standalone introduction. And a prologue. Yeah. I can't really complain if they've decided to add this Lust from Beyond Scarlet. It's rated very positively and is on my fault list, so I can just add it to the wish list. Like, I can't really complain too much if they decide to add censored versions. I think calling it M Edition is weird and wrong, because M to me stands for mature, which I guess maybe that's what they're thinking, is that this is rated M for mature instead of rated adults only, which the original games would be rated adults only, if rated at all. But yeah, that's confusing. You might as well just call it the safe for work version. That makes more sense. Even if it isn't safe for work, or censored edition, toned down edition. Call it the Saltpeter edition. That would be a funny subtitle. The old claim that saltpeter causes people to be less randy, or bland edition would also work. Here we have a game called Destroy the Cubes 2. Let's continue making progress here. 69 cents, bunch of languages. That's gonna be a no. Here we have Undungeon, which there might be something here. Yeah, we'll give that a follow. $17.99 English and Russian. Here we have a game called Little Devourers, which there might be something there. $1.99 English only. I'll have to just see if there's some reviews on these. Here we have something that's probably a low effort troll game. Looks like it's chess, but it's not in English. Free, Spanish, Latin America. We have a Monochrome RPG Episode 1, The Maniacal Morning. Looks like that might be something. Episodic, $19.99 early access. So, you'd have to wait a while for that to come out in a reasonable way to purchase. Songs of Armageddon-popolis. Looks like a low effort joke game. $4.49 English and Russian. Here we have a game called Spectrolight, which looks like nothing. $16.99. Here we have something called Augmented Future, which obviously is nothing. $4.99 English. Here we have something called Blade Walker, which might be something as like an adventure game, so we'll give it a chance. It's free to play, English only. This might be a student project also. I'd have to do more research. We have Brook vs. World Doom, which looks like it might be something. Early access, $8.99 English only. And yeah, we're just burning through these really fast. We have a mostly negative Left to Survive game, unfortunately. So we'll have to say no to that. Here we have a game that's mixed called Unsafe, which maybe I'll give that a chance, but really it doesn't deserve it. Here we have a game called After the First Station, which looks like it might be something, but it could also be basically a walking simulator of no quality. $5.39 English only. It's funny, it's English only, but clearly this is a group of like Asian, Japanese schoolgirls wandering around. Here we have a game called Pronty Fishy Adventure, which, yeah, that looks like that might be a game, so we'll put it on the fall list. $16.19, bunch of languages. Here we have a game called Conquest, we can say no to that. It's VR, $8.99 English. Here we have Chrono Breach Ultra. Looks like there might be a game here, so we'll put that on the fall list. $1.94. I definitely am putting more things on the fall list if I burn through games like this. And my seat is killing me. Here we have the Band of Justice, which we'll just say no to without even looking at the price. Here we have an Asian game, which we can just say no to because it won't support English. Here we have a game called Uberlaufer, which looks like some kind of German game. German weird game. Maybe there's a chance that's good. So we'll put that on the fall list. Again, looks like it's a VR game. We're seeing a lot of VR games today. We have Equine 2, which I think we can say no to. Yeah, it's just not visually polished enough. Here we have Nerf Legends, which definitely deserve a follow just because they have Nerf in the name. Here we have Parabellum with Hold the Line, which looks like garbage, so no to that. Back Alley Inn looks bad, so we'll say no to that. Here's another one that doesn't support English, I'm sure, so we'll say no to that. Here we have the Crafter's Defense, which looks like it's a tower defense game, so we'll say no to that. We have Castle in the Sky, Clash of the Sky Palace. This animation is rough, but I think there might be something here, enough to give it a chance. So we'll put that on the fall list. We'll say no to Royal Riders, which looks bad. We'll say no to Vacation Adventures Cruise Director, which is just a hidden object game. Here we have a game called Not Another Dungeon, which looks like it's a card game. It's probably not good, but I'll give it a chance to surprise me. Here we have what looks like an RPG Maker game of no real interest. So we'll close that. Here we have a game called My Fingers, which I'll say no to. Weapons Gun Sim, I'll say no to. Superb Driver, I'll say no to. Dr. Ewan Evolution. There might be something here, but probably not. Really, I'm just making a mess for myself later. This Tin Encounter may not support English, and otherwise it just looks like it's an asset flip horror game anyways. It's $3.99, does support English and Spanish Latin America. Scratch the Painter's Cat. Doesn't look like anything of interest, so I'll say no. Neon Bricks, no. Borderlands is giving out codes as usual. Zincher. Looks like nothing, so I'll say no there. King of Maverda. Yeah, I think we can say no to that. Hyper Echelon is a shoot 'em up game, so we'll say no to that. Hero Battle. Looks like just a low effort MMO clone, even though it's single player, so I'll say no to that. Moonsters. Looks like it's a Pokemon clone. I'll give it a chance and put it on the follow list. $14.99, English only. 4 Animals. Doesn't look like much of a game, like a cell phone port, so I'll say no. Splash Jumper. Looks like nothing. We'll say no to that. Quiet Apocalypse. Looks like a walking simulator. It's kind of pretty, so I'll give it a follow. $12.99, English, allegedly full audio. Here we have Mage Mountain, which looks bad, so I'll say no to that. 2021 looks like nothing, so I'll say no to that. Electric Universe looks like nothing, so I'll say no to that. Alien Worm looks like nothing, so I'll say no to that. Resonance Wars looks bad, so no. Failure Simulator looks like a troll joke game, so no. The Hungry Elevator Alpha looks like an asset flip, so no. We're being very critical here. Synthetic 2. It's probably a no, but I'm just going to give it a follow. Just desperately trying to get through all of these. Here we have a mixed game called Siege Today, which looks like it's a sandbox siege tower game. Not my style of game, so I'll say no. Here we have a game called Killer in the Cabin, which looks like it's basically just an online PvP game, like, oh, I can't even remember the name of the game that it's a clone of. Maze Workout Urban Lost Solo Car Racing is a terrible name, and for that alone I'm gonna say no on top of the screenshots. Motherland might be something, so I'll give it a follow. Among Us is the game I'm thinking of. Yeah, we haven't really seen a lot of Among Us clones or talk of Among Us. This is just prologue, so we can say no to it immediately. This doesn't look good, so I'll say no. Treasure of the Aegean, I believe, is one we've been keeping an eye out, so it's already on the follow list. It's just, I guess, now available or now out of early access. It's got some good reviews, but not quite enough yet, so we'll just leave it on the follow list. Here we have Lost in Abyss, which again looks like a horror game. I'll give it a chance. It's a VR game. 1999. English and Chinese. And we have a game called House Builder, which is probably an asset flip game, but I'll give it a chance. Here we have Key Monopoly. Is it really Monopoly? Not really. It's kind of just an ugly board game of some sort. $5.99 English and Japanese. I'll say no to that. Punk Wars is a city builder. Yeah, there might be a chance, but probably not. $19.99, several languages. Here we have a game called Henry's Day, which looks like there might be a game here, but I could also be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it's actually not much of a game or not really a game at all. $14.99, English only. The Drill RPG. Looks like nothing of interest. Slice of Sea. Looks differently animated, so I'm going to give it a chance. $24.99 is fairly expensive. Several languages. Epic Chef. Looks like a cooking game of nothing that would interest me, so I'm going to say no. $24.99, several languages. It is rated very positively, so if it's your style game, it might work for other people. Sad RPG. Looks like it's probably a joke game. $7.99 English only. Here we have Smitten Thus, which looks like nothing. $9.99 English. Here we have Hats and Hand Grenades, which looks like nothing. It's free in English only. Still don't even see the beginning of the end. Here we have a game called Artemis, which looks like an asset flip, so no. Here we have a game called Kanga Seeds of Civilization, which I kind of feel like I'll just have to put this on the wish list. It's already rated very positively. Well, it is early access though, so we'll leave it on the fall list for that reason. Here we have a low effort joke game. I made a game with zombies in it. No to that. Here we have Thermonuclear. Yeah, I don't think there's a game here I want to play. There's a strategy placement game, $9.99 English and Russian. Here we have a Pretty Odd Bunny, which looks like it's a platformer. There might be something to this, so I'll put it on the fall list. Here we have something called Fish Story, which looks like nothing of interest. 99 cents, several languages. Here we have Piratopia. Yeah, there might be something to this. We'll put it on the fall list. It's still in early access. Here we have a game called Medieval Arms. We can say no to that. Here we have a game called Little Stars, which looks like a puzzle game, so I'm going to give it a chance. We'll put it on the fall list. Here we have a game called Slime Factory, which seems like maybe a clone of Slime Rancher. I'll put it on the fall list. Anyways. Here we have a game called Bobok, which looks like an interesting kind of horror visual novel, so I'm going to put it on the fall list. Different art style at least. Larry the Unlucky Part 3 looks like nothing, so I'll say no to that. Captain Toonhead versus the Punks from Outer Space. Might be something, probably isn't. Here we have a game called The Winter Story, which looks like nothing, so no. Here we have a game called Phantasma, which looks like a dark screenshot horror game of no interest, so I'm going to say no. And if I could just see the beginning of the end, I'd call this done. Bright Memory Infinite is finally out of early access, and so finally you're at a point where you can buy it. Well, I would suggest maybe buying it. Bright Memory Infinite is, I believe, the spin-off sequel to the game Bright Memory, which is also out of early access. So I'd say the saga probably around Bright Memory is done, and now is the time to play Bright Memory Infinite. Space Depression here looks like nothing of interest. Geo Zombies looks like nothing. Alchemic Cutie is mixed, and it doesn't really look like my style of game, so I'm gonna say no. Ancient Huntsman, I think that's a no. Actually, I'm gonna give it a follow. Peter's Adventures in English, Learn English. This might be interesting / funny. So I'll put it on the follow list and see if there's any reviews for it. If it actually teaches you English, or if it's a joke game and it doesn't teach you English. This looks like nothing, so we'll say no to that. This one won't support English, so we can say no. Gunna Fighter looks like garbage, so we'll say no. Here we have something that won't support English again, so we can just say no to that. Despite the fact that the anime girls catch my attention. Wild West Z. Yeah, I think we can say no to that too. Reborn Tribe. No. Battlefield 2042, mostly negative. Wow. I want to put this on the follow list just to follow the drama around it. Here we have a game called Eduardo, which doesn't look like much, but I'm going to give it a chance and put it on the follow list. Here we have a game called Clarity of the Soul, which doesn't look like anything, so I'm going to say no. Here we have a game called Puzzle Zone, which looks like nothing, so no. And I do see the beginning of the end, although weirdly I'm not seeing my group of tabs. Kill the Monster Z, no. There, I see it now. Daydream Mosaic 2, no. Here we have a adult game, Girls of Fighting Nations. Let's just come over here for a second. Scantily Clad Anime Girls and Tetris combined. I'll put it on the follow list, but it is probably a very low effort game. Here we have a game called Pazing By, which looks like nothing, so no. Here we have Trapbot, no. Here we have Date of Death Origin, which probably is a no, but I'll give it a follow. Here we have another game that is almost certainly not supporting English, so I'll say no to that. Here we have a game called DXD, which is a no. Here we have a game called Island Crusaders, which is a no. Here we have Trading Time. This one's a prologue, so we can just close that. Here we have Drone Crash Course. That's going to be a no. Dungeon Explorer, no. The End of This World is a match 3 game, so no. Russian Drunken Boxing is a joke troll game, so no. Traffic Racing is garbage from the first screenshot, so no. Jump Movement, no. Raiders of the Ice Peak Mountains is a text-only game, so no. Same is true for this game. Brave Doggy Quest doesn't look good enough. Alright, got about 12 more. Chicken Boy Adventures doesn't look good enough. International Absented Age Squarebound is one of these RPG games that maybe has adult content in it, but since this is labeled international, I assume the adult content has been removed. And in all fairness, the character's depiction makes her look fairly young for her to potentially be in scantily clad clothing. Yeah, partial nudity and violence by clothing damage. It can be hidden by the options. Everyone is 18 or older. Here we have a game called Quiz RPG, which looks like nothing. Here we have a game called Control Headlights, which looks like nothing. Here we have Lovely Planet Remix, which I didn't like Lovely Planet. I would like to kind of follow this, but I'm putting myself in danger of finding out that people like it and then buying the remix of a game I didn't like the first time. Here we have something called Horror Stories Please Comply. We'll put that on the follow list. There might be something there. Here we have Foxy Girls Never Play Dirty. Another one of these RPG games where they only sell themselves because there's nudity in them. I mean, they really should just drop the RPG maker garbage and just have nudity alone. At a certain point, I think, particularly for adult content, it makes very little sense to try to have more gameplay hours. I'm just going to say no to this. 2077 Midway Multiverse. Yeah, this is all over the place, so I'm going to say no to that game. This game may not be in English, and even if it is, it's not something I want to play. Yeah, it's English and French. Redawn the Painted Tower Collector's Edition. Looks like it might be more of a point and click than a hidden object game, so I'm going to give it a chance, even though it is from Big Fish Games and highly has a chance of just being a hidden object game. Junk Punk. Yeah, there might be something to this. Put way too many games on the follow list. Bridges of Coney. But I don't know what else to do. I just need to get through these games fairly quickly. That's going to be a no. Virtual Cop is mixed. Well, what's funny about this game is that you're playing as a cop in New Zealand, so the experience of being a New Zealand police officer is going to be fairly different than the experience of being a police officer in many other countries. But even as a mixed reviewed game, I suspect it might not be done well, or it might just be blatant propaganda and people see through it. Here we have another game that isn't going to support English. Here we have a game called Gravitational. There might be something to this, so we'll put it on the follow list. We have May K 2022. English not supported, just Chinese. We've got like 2 more. Yeah, we have a game called Crazy Ludo, which is a board game. We'll put that on the follow list. It looks kind of nicely polished, so that might work. And this is actually the game Ludo. And then we have a game called 1940, which I don't think supports English. Just another Chinese game. So, at that level, now it is just going to be a case, 3 hours and 10 minutes in, where I have no games left over for Monday, which is probably a good thing. I'm going to scroll down my Twitter feeds just a little bit to restock, and then we should wrap up for today. Actually, I think what I want to do is not scroll down on what's on Steam, and let's just scroll down on the news sections. Like GTA, the trilogy's original versions are being relisted, according to GameDeveloper.com, which is weird, I suppose. Compared to the patched version. Rockstar apologizes for the Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy definitive edition technical issues and updates its plans. A Made in Abyss online fan meeting. I didn't even know the anime Made in Abyss had a online game. It must be Japanese only, according to Gamatsu. But yeah, according to Gamatsu, they're having the fan meeting. According to me, I didn't know they even had a Made in Abyss video game. I doubt a Made in Abyss game would come to the West or be particularly popular or well received if it did come to the West. Right now I'm just scrolling down my mainstream. Infinity Ward is embracing Activision Blizzard's zero tolerance harassment policy, which I wonder if Infinity Ward is owned by Activision Blizzard or what's going on there. I mean, it seems like Infinity Ward is really stepping into a fire they didn't need to be involved with, mentioning Activision Blizzard. They could have easily come out and said they have a zero tolerance policy and always have, and they don't even really need to say anything right now specifically about that, unless there was a real reason to say something like that right now. There is also a thing going on Reddit, and take it for whatever it's, well, as far as a YouTube Google thing, Google's main page had a special image for International Women's Day. Apparently today is International Men's Day, and there's nothing. So much for treating everybody the same, or being egalitarian, or equal rights. Yeah. Of course, you could always get into the flippant argument that every other day is International Men's Day, but I mean, that's just a flippant retort, really, not a good response, and not a way to run your business. Certainly, if you're going to promote International Men's Day or promote any holidays, you pretty much need to promote almost all of them. Like, they really just open themselves up for criticism, and at a certain level, that's what a lot of SJWs do, is they do something that is worthy of criticism, and then they complain that they're being criticized, and call it being attacked, perpetuating a victimhood desire and narcissistic actions, and if anything, just propagating wedge issues that are not going to lead to any progress or middle ground making. Like, but yeah, I definitely wouldn't make a big deal about either International Women's Day or Men's Day or any of those holidays, because there's such generic categories of people. Compare that to like Edison's birthday, Tesla's birthday, when most of the front page special images tend to highlight the achievements or the actions of a single person, something that is really substantive, something you can talk about. But when it's just a general class of people, like, well, there's good men, there's bad men, there's good women, there's bad women, there's good gay people, there's bad gay people, there's good straight people, there's bad straight people. You've just made such a sweeping group selection there that there shouldn't be a specific day for everybody like that. At a certain level, like Women's Day, Mother's Day, things like that, is based off of a general concept that you're, as an individual, not worthy of specific applause. You only get it in a general, generic way with many, many other people. Or you could also take it as the idea that specific people shouldn't just deserve applause every day. That's another way in which a specific day can kind of be taken in a negative way. Well, regardless, that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching.